What is up, guys? Timmy Feels here with another video. It's been about a week since I've uploaded my last deck profile video, so we're obviously doing our 1 to 2 week video that we usually do, and today we're taking a look at a pretty cool deck that's near and dear to my heart. So before we jump into it, if you guys aren't subscribed already, make sure you go ahead and you smash that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload other cool videos just like the one you're watching right now, and then obviously give the video a thumbs up because it always helps out. But without further ado, let's jump right into the deck for today. Alrighty, so today we have got some Phantom Knight action going on. Now this is a 50 card list. I don't like playing 40, it's just too small of a list to really function with, so I always play 50 with Phantom Knights. If you watch some of my Burning Abyss videos too, I was playing 50 cards. Right now I'm running a 40 card Burning Abyss list, which I'm waiting on some cards to come in the mail for, but then when they do, I will update that deck profile as well. But for right now, I'll be showcasing Phantom Knights. So let's take a look at the monster lineup to start. So for the Phantom Knights, we play 3 copies of Torn Scale. So Torn Scale is going to basically be a dump by discarding. Additionally, when you banish a Phantom Knight card from grave, you can special summon it from your graveyard. So it's also an extender. That's actually pretty important. This card is just one of the main cores of your engine. It just gets your whole deck going, which is absolutely crazy how good this card is. There's a reason that it's the most expensive Phantom Knight to play right now. Up next, we have 3 copies of Ancient Cloak. I see some people playing 2 of this. I understand the reason why. They usually play 2 of this and 2 gloves. I just prefer playing 3 of this and 1 gloves. It's just the ratio that works best for me. Basically, you banish this and you get to search for a Phantom Knights card, which is pretty sweet. So other than that, it does have a boosting ability, which if you can make an Appaloosa and make it dark, you can boost it by 800, which is pretty good because it gives Appaloosa an extra negate, which is fantastic. Then next we have 3 copies of Silent Boots. So Boots is going to be an extender if you control Phantom Knight. It's also going to be a search for one of your Phantom Knight traps, which is pretty useful. Just helps you make your end board a little bit stronger. Then for the one-ofs, we play 1 Ragged Glove and 1 Stained Greaves. I think one of each of these is perfectly fine. I almost wanted to cut the Stained Greaves, but I thought to myself, you know, it's an extender from hand, and additionally on top of that, it does also help you go into some rank 4 plays when you need them. So I said, you know what? Let's keep this card in here because there are some times where this card comes up and is extremely useful. Those are all the Phantom Knights though. Moving on to a bunch of other extenders because this deck is filled with crazy cool extenders. We have 3 copies of Kagamucha Knight, which pairs extremely well with 3 copies of Tour Guide from the Underworld. If you open up one of each of these, you have a ridiculous combo by itself. Even if your opponent Nibiru's you can still play through the Nibiru, which is insane. So opening these 2 up just grants you an infinite amount of resources, essentially, that your opponent is going to struggle to break. And for the Tour Guide, we do have some Burning Abyss cards. We have a Seer, we have a Graph, and then we have a Libic and a Skarm. So a lot of people play just the Seer, the Graph, and the Libic, or some people now are just playing the Seer and the Graph, which I understand their reasoning behind all of it. I personally like having access to a bunch of different things, and this for me works out fantastic because there are going to be times where you open up a ridiculous amount of extenders and you can just send the Skarm. That way during the end phase you could search for another Tour Guide, which is basically more extension. So there are multiple applications. If you just want to play 2 of these 4, or you want to play 3 of these 4, then go for it. But at the bare minimum, you have to run Seer and Graph. These 2 are optional, your Skarm and your Libic. I think that if you're gonna cut one of them, cut the Skarm and keep the Libic just in case you draw the Seer or the Graph, but that's just me personally. Then we have the rest of the extenders for the deck. So we play 2 Dangers. We play a Tsuchinoko and a Jackalope. So the Tsuchinoko and Jackalope not only help you as far as getting a special summon and digging deeper in your deck, but if you discard a Phantom Knight card from your hand off of it, it extends your game plan even further. So playing the 1 of each is crazy. If these cards ever came back to multiples, I would definitely play multiples of them. Then we play the little Psychic Engine. We play a Wielder and a Tracker. This basically is this with any other level 3 is full combo, essentially. So all you have to do is open up a level 3 in one of these guys and you can play the game to its fullest. So basically you control a level 3 monster and you can special summon either of these from your hand, which is crazy as long as you control a level 3 monster. Like, I would play more, but you really only special summon them once per turn. That's the downside. Then we have the copy of Terratop and Takatomborg, because why not? It's a 1-card free combo, which is crazy. And if you open just the Takatomborg later in your combo, you can always just make Levier the Sea Dragon, and then you can special summon this because it's a wind. Because the Levier is a wind, not because this is a wind, but because your Levier is a wind, you can special summon it, which is really good. The last card that we play is an extender, or a combo piece I should say, is 1 copy of Junk Forward. Basically you start off with this and you don't control any monsters and you just special summon it from hand, which is pretty good. It's okay. It's not the best card in the world, but I think it's all right. I'm not playing the Sold engine, so that's the only downside, is that it would be a lot better with a Sold, but I didn't want to play that engine because I felt that there were other cards that were a little more necessary. But moving on to the hand traps, I only play 2 different hand traps. I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and 3 copies of Droll. Ash is obviously the most generic hand trap that you're going to come across. Almost every single person who plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Is playing Ashes. Card's just really, really good. It always has been really good. It's just your generic negation. That's why Ash is just played so frequently. And then the Droll is obviously there for a multitude of matchups, primarily Drytron, just because it's such a difficult deck to play through if they get their full combo off. So you have to have something to kind of slow them down, and Droll definitely does the job in that instance. There are also times where it can come up against Tri-Brigade, where you can make it so they may search off of Tenki, but then they can't search for their Revolt because you Droll them after the Tenki search. So that does come up every once in a while. And like Shadal Invoked and stuff like that, it also comes up against. There's so many different decks that you could just cut off their plays with Droll, so keep that in mind. Then lastly, for the monster engine, we play the Dark Magician, the Red Eyes, and the Red Eyes Fusion, because why not play Dragoon in this deck? It's just really powerful, and it helps you set up a board that is pretty difficult to break through. So I really like playing the Dragoon engine in this deck for that reason. But those are all the monster cards. Let's go ahead and hop on to our spell cards. We have 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This card is bonkers in this deck too, because if you like lose the dice roll and you go second and you draw this, you could send your Phantom Knight cards from hand. You could get all of their banishing effects from grave, and then you basically just negated your opponent's board and were able to go full combo. So Droplet is ridiculous in this deck. Super, super strong. Then we have a bunch of 1-ofs. We have 5 1-ofs that we play. So I play Monster Reborn as an extender. I think the card's really, really good. Super underrated card right now, in my opinion. More people should be playing this card with good reason. Like, the card's just really good. 1 Rhoda, because like you're playing a deck that has a bunch of warriors in it. Why wouldn't you play Rhoda? 1 Foolish Burial, because this is also another extender or combo piece that you can utilize. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, because back row can be a pain in the butt, so you want to get rid of it. And then 1 Called by the Grave, because we want to stop hand traps. Now, I thought about playing Triple Tactics Talent, but I really didn't have any room for it because I didn't want to go over 50. So I opted to stick at 50 cards, and this is what I came out to. But don't get me wrong, there are some cards that you could remove in place of Triple Tactics Talent, but you don't have to. It's not a necessity. It's just totally dependent on what you personally want to do. But now moving on to the trap cards, we of course play 3 Fogblade. Then I play 1 Sword and 1 Brigandine. So the Sword is really good, especially like with Appaloosa, because it gains 800 attack, which is yet another negation. So if you make like a 3 material Appaloosa that you change to a dark and then you use Cloak, now it's 4 negations, and then if you equip it with the Sword, it's now 5 negations with the Appaloosa, which is very, very powerful. The Brigandine is level 4, so it kind of coincides with the Stained Greaves to help you make a rank 4 play. And then your Fogblade is like Fiendish Chain, and additionally to that, the Sword and the Fogblade act as Graveyard Revival, which is pretty important too. So that is the entire main deck though. I believe I already mentioned that it's 50 cards. I really like the 50 card ratio. It kind of lessens your chances of drawing your Dark Eyes, or I'm sorry, your Red Eyes Black Dragon and your Dark Magician or your Red Eyes Fusion. So we are gonna go ahead and hop on over to the extra deck and take a look at those pretty cool ratios. Alrighty, so we are back with the extra deck. I've also changed the camera angle because I was noticing a lot of glare, which I've been having troubles with lately. I had to adjust the camera angle and everything, and this seems to be looking significantly better already. We'll see how it looks for the rest of the video, and I'll obviously toy around with it when I finish recording. That way I could find the perfect angle, because for whatever reason, somewhere along the line, the angle got screwed up. But taking a look at the extra deck, we will go ahead and start off here with our XYZ lineup, which we have 2 Phantom Knights of Breaksword. This card is amazing if you just want to pop a bunch of cards on your opponent's field over the course of time, or if you really just want to like pop one of your opponent's cards and then extend into a different play, because you can get rid of this and then summon 2 Phantom Knights back because of its own destruction, and then you can just make a rank 4, or you can extend into a link monster if you wanted to. So it's spot removal and it's just kind of extension, which is pretty cool. Then we play the 1 Leviair. Card's really good. I love this card. I wish there was more room in the extra deck to play more of it, but I personally have no room whatsoever in my list to squeeze any other cards in. So we have to stick with the Leviair, but it definitely gets the job done. Then for the rank 4s, we have 1 copy of Abyss Dweller and 1 copy of Time Thief Redoer. So the Redoer is really good if you're locked into darks. Some people play like Evil Swarm Nightmare. I personally don't like Evil Swarm Nightmare. I would rather play Redoer because it steals a card from your opponent's deck, which is really good, like every single turn. It's just, and it's got more attack, and it can remove itself from the board if you have to remove itself from the board. So there's a lot of things that I like about Redoer over the Nightmare, the Evil Swarm Nightmare, that is. And then the Dweller is just like one of the best rank 4s. If you can make this before being locked into darks, your opponent might struggle to play, because a lot of the decks right now are graveyard reliant. So if you can cut off their graveyard usage, then you just kind of steal the game there, which is really good. Then for the 1 fusion monster, of course, the Dragoon. We've discussed this already. Card's really good. And of course, we do have to play the Verte alongside that. The Verte is what sends your Red Eyes Fusion for people who don't know how Dragoon works, but it's been out long enough to where people should know how it works. I think we're coming up on a year of this card being released in the TCG, or we just hit a year of it being released in the TCG. So card's really powerful. Dragoon being able to pop cards on the field and inflict damage is also something that's extremely relevant. There are times where you can just OTK your opponent because of Dragoon. So keep that in mind. That's actually super relevant. Then moving on to the rest of the Link monsters, we have 1 copy of Link Spider. You can use this with Stained Greaves, or if like your opponent Nibiru's you can use the Nibiru token to make a Link Spider, and then if you can summon an effect monster out, you just make Verte, and then you just make a Dragoon. So even if they Nibiru you actually can still play the game, which is pretty bonkers. That's the only Link 1 that we play though. Moving on to the Link 2s, we have 1 copy of Cherubini and 1 copy of IP. So these cards are both ridiculously powerful in this deck. The Cherubini is really what gets your board state going, especially with its free dump. It's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. If you send a Graph and special summon a Seer, you basically get to you make your Rusty, and then you get to summon this back off of a Seer, and then you can probably extend a little bit further past that and make like a Dragoon, which is even crazier. Then the IP is just super strong to be able to interrupt your opponent's board on their turn, and you'll see more cards that we can make off of the IP, which makes it even better. One of them being Nightmare Unicorn. So the Nightmare Unicorn obviously is really good to shuffle a card in your opponent's field. That's like the primary use for this card, but at the same time, this card's really good for link climbing. We'll talk about that in just a few monsters. But then the other Link 3 that we play is, of course, the Rusty Bardiche, because this card is just nuts. It's just really good. It's not as overpowered as it was when it first came out, which is nice. The meta has kind of evolved to make this card be a little more commonplace, and I don't want to say underwhelming, but I would say fair is probably the proper word to describe this card now. So I really like this card a lot. It just makes the engine go, and it's an interruption too, which is pretty neat. Then the Link 4s, we play 1 copy of Appaloosa. If you can make this before getting locked into Dark Monsters, that's obviously important, because this card being set up with even 2 negations is really good. It can stop you from getting hand trapped. It could stop your opponent from just playing the game on their turn in general. So Appaloosa has a ridiculously large amount of uses. Then, speaking of the link climbing that we discussed before, the access code talker is really what we're going to be using the Nightmare Unicorn for. We just link climb up into the access code talker, and it gives us multiple pops on our opponent's board typically. So that's actually super, super important, because access code just puts in so much work against the rest of the meta. Then lastly, the last card that we play in the extra deck, this card is in my opinion, one of the best extra deck cards right now that not as many people are playing. More people should be playing this card. The fact that they aren't is kind of disturbing, but that is our Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. So this card lets you literally just link with your opponent's field. Like that by itself is disgusting, absolutely disgusting. And then it shuts your opponent's board off, and it can negate a graveyard effect essentially. So this card has so many applications in the current meta. It's ridiculous. I love this card. Super, super sweet, super powerful, and puts in a ridiculously exceptional amount of work against every single deck that's currently relevant. So keep that in mind. But that is the entirety of the extra deck. We're going to go ahead and hop on over to our side deck and take a look at what we toss in to counter the current meta. Alrighty, so we're now taking a look at the side deck, which is pretty sweet if I do say so myself. This is just the best way, in my opinion, that you can counter the meta. It's packed into a 15 card engine, which is pretty awesome. So I think that that's just speaking for itself, the fact that there are so many different cards that you can toss in to go ahead and combat whatever you come across at your locals, at a bigger event, whatever the case may be. But we do play some more hand traps. We play 3 copies of Ally of Justice Cycle Reader. This card's really good. I love this card so much. The fact that it just kind of hurts Drytron a ridiculously large amount. You do need more cards to counter Drytron. I mean, you do have the Chalice and the Droll in the main deck, but it doesn't mean you're always going to play through it. There are some times where you can, but it's not necessarily a guaranteed thing, so keep that in mind. Then the other hand trap that we side is 3 Contact C. This is interchangeable with Artifact Lancia, but I personally feel that the Contact C is better, because a lot of decks just lose to this card. They don't have anything they can do. Like they can't play the game when you toss Contact C on their field. Against Tri Brigade and Prank Kids, it's basically an auto win. That's unless like they're playing the Asa or something, and then they just counter it. But I think these 6 cards are very, very solid hand trap choices in this particular deck. Now this is something, I'm going to show you the last 3 monsters here. There is one thing that I'm contemplating changing, but we have 2 Godarla and 1 Pankratops. I'm contemplating playing a 3rd Godarla and cutting the Pankratops. I think Pankratops is good, but I don't think that it's actually that good right now. In a 50 card deck. Like if I was playing a 40 card deck, sure, but in a 50 card deck, it's such a large bomb card that I would rather play a 3rd Godarla and almost guarantee myself a higher chance of drawing it, alongside something like Ally of Just a Cycle Reader and Forbidden Droplet, or Droll, against a deck that's going to put up a ridiculously large amount of negations. So I think the Godarla is a bit better, but if you guys want to play the 1 Pankratops, go for it. Personally, I'm probably switching up to the Godarla pretty soon, just because I think it's a bit better. But then the spell cards, basically just spell cards is the rest of the cards that we play. We have 3 copies of Twin Twister and 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. So like the Twisters is good for more backer removal. Obviously you need more backer removal than just 1 main deck Feather Duster. And I think that because we're playing a deck that relies so heavily on the usage of our graveyard, that Twin Twisters is most likely your best bet. So you can discard your Phantom Knight cards, and then you just go ahead and you can essentially combo off from there after getting rid of your opponent's back row. So keep that in mind, that Twisters is extremely powerful currently. And then the Dark Ruler no more. Once again, we're trying to draw cards to stop combo decks, and Dark Ruler definitely does that. Card's very, very strong, and it kind of just makes it so your opponent's entire like 5-minute turn was all for nothing. That's the best part about Dark Ruler. Like, your opponent combos, then you go ahead and you wipe their board, and then you just set up a board that they can't break, and then they end up losing the game. So that's the really, really neat part about this card, being able to just turn the board state around your opponent, making it so you going second really isn't that bad. But that essentially brings the side deck to a close, which will in turn bring the video to a close. Now, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. The goal is still there to hit 1,000 subscribers. If I hit 1,000 subscribers, this is a fun fact, so you guys might want to listen here, because this is actually really important if you like the channel and you like the content. So if I hit 1,000 subscribers, I am basically allowed to get my channel verified through YouTube, and then I'm allowed to live stream through YouTube. So I can bring my setup to locals, and I can actually stream at locals, which is pretty sweet. So if you guys want to see me streaming at locals, I think that would be pretty cool myself. You guys should probably go ahead and not only subscribe, because I know there's a decent percentage of you who aren't subscribed, and you should also get all of your friends to subscribe, your family, your moms, your dads, your grandmas, your grandpas. Get them to subscribe to my channel, just so you can go ahead and watch me live stream locals. It might be just me playing. I might live stream table 1 the entire time. Who knows? I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we see a variety of things in the near future. But if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button and turn the notification bell on so you know when I post cool, awesome content like this. And as I mentioned, make sure you guys go ahead and help me get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. I think we're at 839 or 840 subscribers right now, so we are working our way up. We're only like 160 off. We can do that very, very easily. But for right now, this is Team Yugi Feels signing out.